Hey everyone, this is Prince Watercress, and welcome back to Let's Play Secret of Evermore. We are in the endgame scenario now. In the last video, we got the energy core from the chessboard. Now that we have access to the escape pod, which doubles as a futuristic flying Cadillac-looking thing, they can bring us to the planet below and to the space station above. And we also fought Faceman. I fought the optional boss for the first time. I kind of knew what to do. Also, you'll notice here that I've leveled up a little bit, and I went to the junkyard and saved there. That's because when you put in the energy core in the little teleporter in the junkyard, you get a prompt saying you want to save your game, and I saved my game, and then I'll reset. Reason being, I didn't want to show off my going through the entire main district maze again, and I just wanted to spare you all that backtracking just so I could just start at the junkyard. And once you put the energy core in the little transporter in the junkyard and you get that save prompt, there's no going back. That's a no turning back point. That is a point of no return. So once you put the energy core in, all you can do is just fight Carltron and get the ending. That's basically it. Also, even when you save, you still have the energy core in your possession, too. And yeah, the boy's at 38, the dog is at level 37. We are more than powerful enough. Also, I have to switch to the bazooka because when I saved, I had the bazooka equipped, and when I loaded my game, it kicked me back to the bone crusher for some reason. So here are our final stats. Boy is a tank. Dog is even more of a tank. Also, strangely, even though I have the Cryoblast equipped, it still says I have the Thunderball. Yet another weird glitch with the game. I might as well go ahead and show off my spells here. Defend, obviously defensive buff. Cure for status ailments. Heal because we need a way to heal. Speed for that hit percentage increase. Double Drain, I'm not going to be able to use that very much. Neither will I be able to use Lance very much. Reflect is nice in case I have to deal with alchemy. So it's good to have plenty of charges for that. Stop will stop enemy attacks in their tracks. And Energize in case I want to fight with the laser lance. But it's also going to be useful for the dog as well. That's basically my final spell setup. I could have used Super Heal, but you know what? If I heal my characters individually, even if I don't, heal is still going to be a very useful spell anyway. Plus I have Cure just in case, which I'm probably going to be using far less often in this final boss battle anyway. In this final boss battle, you don't just fight Carltron. You also have a huge boss gauntlet to deal with as well. And we're going to be dealing with that as soon as we put the energy core into this little hole that we have to approach, just to trigger it. And then once we get that save prompt, whether we save or not, we automatically walk into the transporter and we end up here. You can move around here all you like, but all you can do is just press B and just go down here. That's it. Welcome to the boss gauntlet. You have all these bombs shooting out of these pipes on the side. Your first opponent are all these fans and speakers. I'm going to go ahead and shoot at all these things with the Cryoblast projectiles from the bazooka. You also want to be careful not to get hit by those bombs because while they can't outright kill you, they do cause a lot of damage. And I do heal myself for just in case. Got a lot of hit points for this battle. I got over 400 each for both characters. And if you get too close to the fans and the speakers, you get pushed all the way back to the back of the room for a few seconds before you're able to advance up to them again. Don't get too close, otherwise you will be pushed back, and you may be at the mercy of the bombs when that happens. Also, I'm doing this episode in post-commentary because once again, Audacity decided to be a jerk for whatever reason, And so I decided to just go straight to sound recorder and then use Audacity for the audio editing from there on in. Of course, I have to convert from WMA to MP3 or whatever, but that's the breaks. I can easily deal with that. Also, the reason the dog isn't attacking, despite the fact that we have like all these enemies on screen, is because there's too many of them. The bombs actually count as enemies under the targeting system and if you're casting spells. Once you get at least half of them gone, you'll be able to get the dog to hit these things with level 3 attacks. But for some reason, I just wasn't having the best of luck while doing this. And so I just switched back to the boy after trying my hand with it with the dog. It didn't really go all that well until this point. Don't know why the dog's level 3 attack finally decided to, you know, work now, but, well, it's working now. Also, all these fans and speakers, when we destroy them, they leave all these switches behind. Once you destroy them all, you hit all the switches with the B button, the bombs will disappear, you'll get this little alarm sound. Well, they don't disappear all the way. And then you get this huge wall of monitors, which is really awesome. And now you start the real boss gauntlet. Your first opponent is 3 sets of 2 metal raptors each. So you fight 2 metal raptors, and you fight 2 more, and then you fight 2 more after that. These guys now have a lot more room to chase you around with. Be ready to line them up with either the laser lance plus energize, or with the bazooka equipped with the cryoblast. These enemies do leave piles similar to the item drops. If you go up to them, they don't drop any items or anything. You get nothing from these little piles here. And when you kill up the first 2 raptors, as well as every other salvo of enemies, this cleaning droid shows up. If you destroy this cleaning droid, you will have to face this spider palette swap known as the Death Spider. It's pretty much like the other spider enemies in the game, but it has a lot of hit points, it's pretty powerful, and it has a very grim color scheme that is actually pretty cool. I will not be showing them off because I don't feel like dealing with 2 raptors and one of those things at the same time. Thank you so much. So here we are at the second set of raptors. Never really dawns on me to use Energize until a little later. Don't know why that is. I guess the dog had a fun time lining himself up properly for such a thing. And I forgot to heal after the first set of raptors, so I take the time to do so now. And now we have 2 more raptors popping out of the screens here. I really love these screens. It seems very 50s-ish, but at the same time very 90s-ish, just because of how everything's set up. Nothing more 90s than a whole wall full of video monitors. So I should, W probably attest that that is probably an 80s thing too. Looking at you, Top of the Pops. But I now start using Energize on the dog, and look how quickly the dog's attack gauge fills up. It's just instant. By the way, I would not use the Energize spell with the bazooka, because if you do, all you'll be doing is just whacking stuff at 0% with the bazooka. And after you beat the 6 metal raptors, you get to face off with 3 Eyes of Rimsala, the blue and platinum ones that we saw in the main districts. The only difference is, you're not in some narrow corridor when you're fighting them this time. You got 3 of them, and you're in a much more open space, much like you were in the Great Pyramid. Thankfully, because I have the Energize spell working on the dog right now, I'm able to make quick work of all these things. And I'm running low on health, and as I heal my characters individually, I get heal up to level 5 for basically no reason at all. Getting it up to at least level 4 and combining it with the effects of the Moxa Stick works really well. That is probably the best you can get the heal spell up to as quickly as possible. I mean, if you level it up even further, that's great. There's no real need, at least to me, to level it up to 5. And once you beat the 3 Eyes of Rimsal, you get to face Bad Boy, who is really weak. Then you face off against the Dark Toaster, which is a clone of the robot version of the dog. It just runs around and then it goes after you, hitting you with a level 1 attack. And that level 1 attack can't hurt. And it's pretty hard to... Well, it's easy to dodge, but it makes it so much harder to not only not get hit by it, but also not get hit by it and line yourself up so you can hit this thing with either the laser lance at level 3 or the bazooka. So there is that problem that you have to deal with. As long as you can keep energized on at least the dog, you shouldn't have much of a problem getting some hits on this thing sometimes. But this is probably the hardest part of the battle thus far. And you gotta keep yourself healed too. You can't forget about that. Heal myself first in case the dog managed to get a shot on it somehow. Sadly, the dog does not. And I should definitely be healing my dog sometime soon too. But we did get the Dark Toaster. Love the little red particles there on the mess that the Dark Toaster left, that the cleaning robot had to clean up. And now all of these monitors explode. So much for that wall of monitors. And we now face off against Metal Magmar. Metal Magmar is just like his original version from way back in the volcano. He's much more powerful though. And he can also cast Crush on you. I'm pretty sure he can cast other spells on you like Storm or something, I'm not sure. All I ever saw him cast was Crush. But he can still shoot fireballs at you both in the air and straight out at you. And if given the opportunity, he will go to the center of the room where lightning will zap him and heal a whole bunch of damage. You can hit him out of it though, I believe. All you'd have to do is just hit him with a well-placed level 3 dog attack or the bazooka. And thankfully, we managed to finish off Metal Magmar in record time. And here's the final part of this boss gauntlet. Carltron's robot. Carltron's robot just jumps around on this weird little rocket launcher thing. And whenever he hits the ground, he fires rockets at you. I'm going to put up Defend, just so I can defend myself a little more. And this is the only way you can face him. You gotta be right across from him. And you gotta basically trade projectiles with them as you're fighting him. That was a really weird graphical glitch. If you try to approach him from the side, a bunch of explosions will set off, and they can do a lot of damage. So you can't just go up there and cheese them from the sides. Carltron's robot will not allow you to do such. Also, unlike the other enemies that I could have cast Stop on, casting Stop does not work on Carltron's robot. He turns the stone gray colors that any enemy under the effects of Stop would turn, but he still jumps around and shoots rockets at you, so it really has no effect. Also, the reason that I said I was not going to use Lance and Double Drain in this battle was because of that. Carltron's robot's magic defense is so high that you can barely do anything with alchemy. And here's me trying to use Stop on this guy. It didn't work. It also made him invincible for some reason, I think. Yeah, it made him invincible. Not a pretty picture, that. And I'm below 200, so it's now time to heal myself. And it really pays to heal your characters individually in this battle. I always carry plenty of charges for heal. Make sure you have pretty much have 98 on you at all times before you go in here, because you're going to need all the charges for heal that you can possibly get. Also, those rockets that Carltron's robot shoots, they can very much pack a punch. I actually considered casting speed on the dog, but then I realized I'm hurting for health. So I heal the dog first, cast speed on him, and then I have to cast heal on myself, and then I believe I cast speed. I know it hasn't been that long since I recorded this. And I'm not ready to consider casting defend too. I just know that this is a pretty long and grueling battle if you're not prepared for it. And we got him! That is the final battle of Secret of Evermore. Once you've beaten Carltron's robot, you've beaten the game. Don't know why we leveled up, but we do get experience off Carltron's robot. And we see Carltron clicking this remote, but Professor Ruffleberg shows up and turns him off. Goodbye, Carltron. And with that, Professor Ruffleberg sends Carltron's deactivated self back to the lab. So now that we're done stopping a world domination plot, we have to find our way home. But we also ask what's going to happen to Evermore. Now that Carltron and his evil elements have been removed from this world, they're going to go away. And Professor Ruffleberg twists some knobs, pulls some levers on the virtual reality Zap-O-Matic here to take us virtually to the planet below so we can see evil come to an end in this world. Goodbye, Skelisnails. Goodbye, Raptors. Goodbye, Sand Spiders. And your stupid poisoning ability. Goodbye, Dancing Fools. Goodbye, mosquitoes. Goodbye, blue goos. Goodbye, evil creatures. Everything is dying. Everything that was dead is now removed from Evermore forever. Everything just dies in this fiery, explosive death. But unfortunately, Evermore is on a collision course for destruction because, now that Carltron's evil influence gone, the balance of the world is completely offset. And now the professor paces back and forth, wondering what to do. When it's pretty obvious. We have to remove ourselves from the world as well. So we, the professor, Elizabeth, Horace, Camellia, they have to leave the land they've called home for 3 decades, forever, or else Evermore will cease to exist. I do like the "or else Evermore will be nevermore forevermore" line. I actually kind of like that line, to be obvious. So what we have to do is go back down to the planet and get Elizabeth, Horace, and Camellia on the planet below, get them in the escape pod, and then bring them back here to Omnitopia, and hopefully use the teleporter to get back home. And that's exactly what the professor tells us to do. Once we're all together, we'll be back in Podunk. That's the hope. And even though our chances for survival, according to the professor, wait for it, are basically non-existent according to him. Called it. We still have to at least try. Now thankfully you don't have to do any of the movement for this. Once you've beaten Carltron's robot, you can just put the controller down. You don't have to do any more gameplay stuff. This is all automatic. We finally catch up with Elizabeth, aka Fire Eyes, and we tell her what's going on, and I find it interesting that she immediately doesn't even question it. She just knows that it's all because of her that this stuff is happening. And she leaves this world to Strongheart as she makes her final farewell. I guess it kind of makes sense, considering she was the one who was intelligent and to the point out of the three people that we met on the planet that ran these lands. But still, it's kind of strange that she still doesn't even question it. Anyway, it's now time to head to Nobilia, where we have to get Horus out of here. And apparently it looks like they're rebuilding the Sacred Dog statue there. At least Horus is trying to keep a level head. By the way, there's a few typos in the ending text, like a period after an exclamation point, no space between a period and a word, like in the Fire Eyes part. And anyway, we tell Horus it's time to go. Horus still wants to help these people. He's a little reluctant at first, but Madronius, on the other hand, who we haven't seen since we beat Aegis, he doesn't question it. He tells him, go. If he's right, you should leave. Horus leaves this land in Madronius, and we head off. And now it's time to head back to Ebonkeep, where we talk to Camellia. By the way, you can kind of go through the text faster yourself, even though the text is automatic. But if you do it in this part, there is a chance that the game might freeze, and you have to do the whole boss gauntlet again in order to see the ending up to this point, and then leave it alone and see the rest of it. I'm not sure why that is. I just know that this happens. And it doesn't take much convincing to get Camellia out of here. She's like, see ya! I'm part of the problem. You have the castle now. And now the sky is turning a sickly purple as we try to make a course back to the space station. And we are finally there, at last. Whoa. That was some pretty interesting stuff with the color effects going on there with the Super Nintendo. Very interesting system, especially when you knew what to do with it. So now everyone's back together again, and we're all heading to Podunk. Carltron is the first to go, now that he is deactivated and his plans for world domination foiled. And then it's time for everyone else to leave. Camellia goes first, followed by Elizabeth, and finally, Horace Highwater himself. The professor waits for us, hoping that we make it in time, but fearing the worst, as there's not much time and we still haven't made it here yet, he teleports back to Podunk alone, hoping that we make it. Thankfully, we do! And we almost don't make it because we have to tell the dog to leave the cat alone. The cat that they've had the dog chase after at least once every world. We're finally teleported back to Podunk, and we're finally out of Evermore. We are finally back in Podunk. And interestingly enough, that was our dog after all. The boy wonders if the adventure really happened, despite all the stuff that we went through. When he heads back to the theater and looks up at the marquee, The Secret of Evermore is the movie playing right now. And the boy gets his answer. Meanwhile, back at the old mansion, the four subjects of the experiment on the mansion on the hill look at the world as it is now 30 years later. They will miss the world that they have lived in the last 30 years, and then wonder what will become of it. And that ends The Secret of Evermore. It's still got a few glitches, but it's still a very playable game. Don't let the fact that it's supposedly the game that kept Sega and Densetsu 3 from coming here, it really wasn't, from keeping you from playing this game, or the fact that it's not up to the same caliber as like some of the best Square games from the 16-bit era. But even with its hiccups and its flaws, it's still a great game on its own right. It's still worth playing through at least once. Now that all the evil is gone, people can live without fear now. So it's nice to see the people of Evermore living their lives. Also, Jeremy Soule, this was the first soundtrack he had ever done. He felt that video games music lacked drama and emotion, and he set out to make music that really captured what he felt video game music should sound like. And apparently he succeeded, because in recent years he did the music for Elder Scrolls 3, 4, and 5. So he's worth mentioning just for that too. Yeah, but yeah, Jeremy Soule did a really good job with the music in this game. And there's Tinker and Gomi on the Wind Waker together. Once again, I almost wanted to call it Wind Waker. I don't know why. Also, Ted Woolsey is mentioned in the credits. Oh yeah, because this was before Super Mario RPG was released, and that was the last game he worked on, I think. Also, all the evil robots are now part of Percival Plank's exhibition, which is now open in Ebon Keep. And you! The end. Yeah, I find it interesting that the game actually had a "and you" part to the end of the credits there. So, yeah, that's pretty much the end of the game there, aside from a few things I'm going to mention. I might as well go ahead and mention my mini review for this game. How are the graphics? Well, they're pretty good. I mean, it's 1995. They're expected to be good for a Super Nintendo game at this point. I love how there's a lot of colors blending together. Nothing really feels out of place sometimes. They did a really good job with the coloring. And everything looks like looks like what they're supposed to look like. Sound and music sounds alright. It is not going to set the world on fire, but I do love the soundtrack for this game. There are some really good tracks for this game, such as the credits theme, which I'm talking over, Ivor Tower. There were a few really good standout tracks there. And the music actually fit the places that they went to pretty well. Gameplay, if you played Secret of Mana, you kind of know what to expect. It's basically just the same as that. Everything's responsive. Finding the enemies, you quickly get used to it. Learning how to use the items and the spells and everything. I do like the fact that you have kind of spell charges in the form of alchemy ingredients, and nothing has like an elemental strength or weakness or anything like that. So there's no wrong alchemy setup that your character can have, which I like. And what's this? Well, Carltron is reanimated again. If you wait a little while after the end, you get this little cutscene here where a now reactivated Carltron is cleaning up the lab. And the professor checking up on him, saying, hey, no more plans for world domination. But when the professor leaves, he definitely looks like he's up to something. And that's basically it for the credits. However, if you wait 30 minutes before this, you actually get one more credit. You get Dolly Grip Brian Fedrow. Don't know why there's a Dolly Grip credit in there. I'm pretty sure I don't know what a Dolly Grip is, but it is in there. But you gotta wait 30 minutes in order to see that. I don't know how the developers expected you to figure that out. Either probably by chance or through a game magazine probably, but it's there, but you just gotta wait 30 minutes. And if you wait 5 more minutes after that, you get another message saying, it's Bill's fault. Special thanks to Brysolf for mentioning that in the ending to his Let's Play of the game. I just realized I watched 4 Let's Plays before doing this one. There was Nintendo Capri Suns, then there was Brysolf's, and then I rewatched Brick Road's playthrough with Sylvan Jedi, and then I did H.C. Bailey's when he finally did it once and for all. And then I basically used the stuff that he learned for mine. So this one was kind of a long road in getting, but it was so worth it. And that was also because of my recording setup problems at the time too. I've been wanting to play this game for the longest time, and now I finally have. I also want to get back to the play control too, because at that point I'm just rambling. I think I already mentioned it, but I might as well go ahead and mention it again. Everything's responsive. You get quickly used to how to use items and alchemy spells, and how to fight the enemies and everything. If you've played Secret of Mana before, you'll pretty much be able to play this game right off the bat. Even if you haven't, you'll still be able to figure it out pretty quickly. And would I play this game again? Absolutely. It's not the same caliber as Final Fantasy VI, 3 if you're playing the American Super Nintendo version. Final Fantasy VI, Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, the 3 big ones in the line of RPGs for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. But it's still a pretty nifty game in its own right, and even though it's got a bunch of glitches that could have been corrected before the game was sent out to retail, It's still an American-developed game that kind of gets all those JRPG nuances from the 90s down and does them pretty competently for the most part. It really feels like a love letter to JRPGs from the 90s. According to one review that I've read, I can't remember which one it was, but it's definitely a great game. Not the greatest RPG for Super Nintendo, but pretty much right up there. It's still a solid game. I would recommend it to anybody. Just don't give up when you're fighting Thrax. I mean, he's like the dragon from King Arthur and the Knights of Justice, but he's not that hard. I remember reading about people giving up on the Thrax part in Retro Gamer magazine way before I did this LP, like a couple of years back. Thrax isn't that hard. You kind of get an idea of what to do in the opening demo if you leave the game title screen running long enough. Still a good game. I definitely recommend it. And that's it for Let's Play Secret of Evermore. 35 parts, longest one I've ever done. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully there will be other games coming after this. Not sure what I'm going to record next, but I'm pretty sure I'll figure it out eventually. Hopefully I will come back with another game. And until then, this is Prince Watercress. Take care, stay safe, thanks for watching, and see you guys later!